everybody in the world blind. Please, Lord, give me us.
Welcome to Taekook Forever. Have you ever seen two people in the middle of a crowd, but it feels like it's just the two of them in that world? It wasn't something that was planned, nor is it to be shown. But that's precisely why everything feels so real. It was as if there was a feeling that spoke first before the words were composed. It was as if there was an unexplained closeness, because it was clear from the way they looked at each other. And that's where that curiosity starts to grow. What exactly happened between Taehyung and Jungkook? Purple Heart. Many are starting to wonder, is there anything more than a friendship between Taehyung and Jungkook? It all starts with small details that are hard to ignore. As Taehyung spoke, Jungkook looked so focused on paying attention to him, as if the world around him was suddenly silent. When Taehyung laughed, Jungkook's smile appeared reflexively, without being contrived. Even in moments where they weren't standing next to each other, Jungkook's attention always seemed to go back in one direction. What makes many fans even more curious aren't the big interactions or dramatic scenes. Quite the opposite, a spontaneous reaction that cannot be planned. There was one moment when Taehyung walked past Jungkook. No touch, no words. But Jungkook's expression changed instantly. His gaze followed, his smile widened, and for a few seconds, he looked like someone who was hiding feelings that were too big to cover. And the one that steals the most attention? Jungkook's way often looks nervous around Taehyung. Chuckle, look away, or become very quiet. The small reactions that actually feel the most honest. Fans realize one thing, Jungkook may never say anything directly, but his body language seems to speak louder than words. Taehyung himself looked so comfortable. His gaze is soft, his gestures relaxed, as if he's become very used to Jungkook's attention. There is a dynamic that feels warm, familiar, and full of understanding without needing to say much. Is this just a very close friendship? Or is there a feeling that grows quietly between the two? No one really knows. And perhaps, that's exactly where the charm lies. Because what makes all this feel special is not certainty, but the mystery created from small moments that are so human. A reaction that cannot be scenarioed. A look that is too sincere to be considered a coincidence. And every time that happens, fans can only smile and ask to themselves, could it be that Jungkook can't hide his feelings for Taehyung? But the curiosity doesn't stop there. The more attention is paid to it, the more small patterns that are repeated will be seen. Not something flashy, but subtle habits that feel too consistent to be called a coincidence. Every time they were in the same room, it was as if there was an invisible pull that made the distance between them slowly narrow. If Taehyung was standing on one side, Jungkook would be close to him shortly afterwards. If Taehyung moves, Jungkook's gaze automatically follows, as if unconsciously. And what makes fans' hearts pounding the most is the moment when they are not being highlighted by the main camera. When the public's attention is split in the other direction, that's where the most honest interactions are often captured by fan cameras, a small smile shared quietly, a brief whisper, or simply standing very close for no apparent reason. There was one moment backstage that was talked about a lot. Taehyung is seen talking to the other members, but Jungkook stands nearby, watching him with an expression that is difficult to explain. Not just looking, but like, enjoying Taehyung's presence in front of him. When Taehyung noticed the look and turned his head, Jungkook instantly smiled awkwardly and lowered his head for a moment, as if caught doing something too personal. Such a reaction cannot be made up. It was the reaction of a person whose feelings came faster than his thoughts. Interestingly, Taehyung seems very sensitive to the little things of Jungkook. When Jungkook looks tired, Taehyung is often the first to approach. When Jungkook joked, Taehyung laughed the hardest. It was as if there was a wordless understanding that only the two of them had. Many fans are starting to realize one important thing: their relationship doesn't feel like two people trying to look close. Quite the opposite. They looked like two people who were already too close, to the point that there was no need to show anything excessively. And that's where the beauty lies. Because if this is just friendship, then this is a very rare friendship. If this is more than that, then it is something so sweet that it is difficult to express. Maybe Jungkook had never said anything directly. But every smile he gave Taehyung, every look that was too long, every little reaction he couldn't hide. Everything is like pieces of the puzzle that slowly form the bigger picture. A picture of two hearts that always seem to find their way back to each other, in the midst of the crowds, in the spotlight, in the midst of a world that never stops moving. And the more those moments are seen, the harder it is for fans not to ask again. Is this really just a coincidence? Or has Jungkook unwittingly shown something he's been trying to keep tight? Time goes on, stage after stage changes, city after city passes. But one thing that never seems to change is the way they find each other, in the midst of a crowd that is never quiet. The longer you pay attention, the more it becomes apparent that what makes all this so alluring is not what is obvious, but what is almost invisible. The moment of a split second when Jungkook seemed to turn his head faster when he heard Taehyung's voice. The way Taehyung subconsciously stands a little closer, as if that distance is the most comfortable place for him. And there was something so tender in the way they treated each other. Not a big gesture, not a dramatic hug, but small attention that feels very personal. Like when Jungkook tidied something up on Taehyung's clothes with such a natural movement, as if it had become a habit. Or when Taehyung pats Jungkook on the back gently, not as a joke, but as a way of quietly saying, "I'm here." Small things like that actually feel the most sincere. Fans are starting to realize that Jungkook often looks the most different when he's around Taehyung. Softer. Quieter. His smile wasn't as wide as when joking with others, but it was warmer, as if it came from a deeper place. And Taehyung? He looked so comfortable, as if he was already very familiar with Jungkook's every expression even before it happened. There's one pattern that's hard to ignore. Every time Taehyung laughs, Jungkook's eyes almost always smile along with it. Not just a reflex, but like someone who really enjoys seeing his loved ones happy. Maybe this is what makes many people feel that there is something different. Not because they wanted to see something that didn't exist, but because those reactions felt too honest to ignore. Behind all the speculation, one thing is certain: their closeness has a real warmth. A dynamic that is not made up, not forced, and does not need to be announced to the world. And perhaps, that's precisely why it all feels so mysterious. Because if there is indeed a feeling there, it is the kind of feeling that doesn't need many words. Enough with too long a stare. A smile that appears for no reason. And the presence that always feels the most soothing. It was as if in the midst of such a noisy world, the two of them had a small space that only they understood. A space where Jungkook doesn't have to hide his reaction. And Taehyung didn't have to ask anything to understand it. At this point, the question is no longer whether there is something between them. Rather, how deep was the feeling really, that even without a word, everyone could feel it? Thank you for watching to the end, Taekook Forever lovers. If you also feel that Jungkook and Taehyung really gave an amazing performance, don't forget to support this video by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Let us know in the comments section which moments of appearance from the Face era give you goosebumps. See you in the next video.